Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to share our story of implementing Guidewire Insurance Suite on AWS Cloud. I am Mitch Walsh. I'm from AF Group. Just a little insight, AF Group is one of the leading providers of workers' compensation. This year we'll do about $1.4 billion in direct written premium. And my group is strategy execution, so we're responsible for implementing some of the most strategic projects in the company, which this project is obviously one of them. And then I'd like to turn it over to Imran Ilyas, our SI.
Hi, Imran Ilyas. I'm a partner within PwC Insurance Practice. My focus area is P&C transformation. I also lead the Guidewire Alliance for PwC, so looking forward to presenting our case study with you. So one of the things, when we started this journey of launching a commercial auto product in Guidewire and AWS, the journey we had to execute this was extremely tight timeline. AF Group wanted to launch this thing in 6 to 9 months time frame, and we had to launch something really quick to the market to diversify their portfolio. So in the scope perspective, we had to not only launch the policy, billing, claims, rating, portal, the EDW, and then also the, all the other integration points. So if you look at typical Guidewire implementations, most of the implementations take anywhere from 15 months to 36 months, in some cases 48 months. So something to launch in about 6 to 9 months with that scope, that was our first challenge. So what we did was we decided that there is a provisioning time it takes to secure the infrastructure, leveraging the data center. So that's what triggered us to go to AWS. And by leveraging the AWS platform, we were able to launch this Guidewire platform literally in about 6 to 9 months and in production-ready shape. One of the key pieces with this was not just policy, billing, and claims. We actually integrated with almost 30 to 40 different integration points and outside vendors. So that was another tricky part of this piece going into it. Not only that, we also have a enterprise data warehouse which was supporting all the reporting and data needs as part of this implementation. At the end, what we did was we launched a commercial auto product just to ensure that that's available to the marketplace. And Mitch is going to talk a little bit about the approach we took to go through this journey, and then also how did we run into some of the challenges, and we'll share some of the lessons learned as part of that too. Mitch?
Okay, so to give you a little bit more background, AF Group has been one of the leading providers of workers' compensation for 100 years now. So we started off as a state fund for Michigan and have grown into be the 14th largest carrier to date. As part of our growth and diversification strategy, we decided we needed to branch off into other lines of insurance. And so we did some exploration, and we decided, hey, commercial auto sounds like a good opportunity for us, and we will focus on trucking. The only issue was, we are currently in the midst of our digital transformation for our core business on the legacy system, so to go and implement it in the core would take quite some time, plus just not strategically a good idea. And the other thing is, we had no operations team to support this. We are a workers' comp company. So what we did is we teamed with PwC and AWS to create a cloud solution implementing the Guidewire Insurance Suite. We did that while we stood up an operation. So we searched our organization for people that had the experience with commercial auto. We brought them to the table. We also went out and hired talent. And so, worked together with them and with PwC. We stood it up, like Imran has said, in 6 to 9 months. And really the goal was to make this a scalable solution. A solution where we could grow the business and we could easily add other lines of insurance. So that was one of the key operatives in doing that. And lo and behold, in less than 9 months, we were issuing policies in 4 states, and 3 months later, issuing it in a total of 10 states, and now we're in the process of expanding to be 14 states. So within 12 months, 10 states, and a little bit longer than that, 14 states. So this just kind of gives you kind of a high-level overview of it. We use the Agile Scrum methodology. So we started off with what we call the functional pilot, and we really, with the functional pilot, we use that for our inception planning and starting to build out our product model. Again, we are a workers' comp company. We wanted to be able to see and feel what it was like to be in commercial auto. So we did that. Plus, since it was a new product line, we needed approval from our board of directors. So what we decided to do is, let's break this into smaller chunks. Let's do a 3-month engagement with PwC and make sure that we secure approval along the way. And after 3 months, we did that. So at the end of 3 months, we actually had a working prototype where we could issue some policies and demonstrate what it was going to look like, and built out the product model. Starting about October of last year, then we went full force with it, started up our implementation sprints, did about 6 of those sprints. So we brought our subject matter experts, product owners, new people and staff, experts in the area. PwC hosted requirements workshops with them. As part of the scrums, or during the scrum sprinting, we would start the development, and by the end of it, we would do user acceptance testing. We did that along the way, and we also implemented a model office at the end, making sure that we could realize that. So we went live, like I said, we were actually issuing quotes in the March timeframe, so about 7.5, 8 months, and issued our first policy for April 1st of this year. Growth right now is about 25% more than we had even planned. So you can imagine our leadership is saying, what can we do next, and how fast can we do it? So while we were originally set a target to do, I'll say, a minimal viable product, we really, I think, achieved much more than a minimal viable product. We have a really sustainable product out there. It's easily scalable. We're easily adding additional states. Like I mentioned, we can add 3 or 4 in 2 or 3 months with no particular issues. We took a very collaborative approach to doing this, where we had the business units, I'll say literally embedded with our implementation team, so that as they identified issues, we could quickly turn around solutions to remedy those. And I'd say there were literally 0 critical or high defects when we went live with it, and very proud of that. Anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I would say the one thing to kind of look upon here, we started this journey with the minimal viable product. So the business says, if you can launch something pretty quickly in the cloud in 6 months to 9 months, let's go for it. What's interesting to us is about 3 or 4 months later, everybody forgot minimal viable product, then what was the viable product, right? So that's always a scope creep you always get, but the team actually worked pretty well, and they were able to actually produce a very, very high quality product, which was ready for kind of going out to the market. One of the key pieces, as you do this for the first time for the Guidewire and AWS, there are lessons learned as part of that deployment. At this point, Guidewire has about 4 to 10 deployments on AWS. So I believe we were number 3 when we were deploying that piece. So there was a lot of lessons learned on how to design the landing zone for AWS for our product, for our platform, how the security will be working, how the infrastructure sizing will work. So there were a lot of consideration we had to go through quickly as a result of this platform development. The infrastructure, the product model, the rating, and then we were actually going after a specific class in terms of the trucking industry and the commercial auto. So we had to make sure from a rating perspective, this platform can scale. Just to give you an idea from a scaling perspective, for each of the policies, in some cases we have about 1,000 vehicles to 2,000 vehicles, and executing rating across all these vehicles when you're binding a policy, it's a pretty scalable challenge you face when you have to bound that many vehicles into a policy. So we went through our own learnings of how to actually make that happen too.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and I would say, in working with AWS too, like you mentioned, that we easily scaled up.
Yeah.
We would add new environments, and it literally would take us just a matter of days to do that. And then as we, let's finish an implementation, and so we didn't need an environment anymore, we could, relinquish that environment back.
I would say that was the best advantage we had. I think we launched it with a lot of capacity. We thought we need a lot of capacity. And then as we were 3 months into it, we realized that we can actually live with a little bit less capacity, and then with the AWS platform, we're able to notch it down, and we saved a lot of money by doing it on a monthly basis. So that was the best advantage we had, was we were able to go up and down pretty quickly with that tooling.
Yeah, and the metrics that we were able to get that
Yeah.
showed consumption and utilization were
Yeah.
very valuable. So, all right, we wanted to open it up for questions and answers. So, we've got a roaming microphone.
We have a mic.
so-
If there are questions, we'll take it.
So what were some of the specific key learnings then?
specific-
Key learnings.
key learnings.
Yeah, I can start, Mitch, then you can add
Yeah.
to it. So I think from my side, I would say timing was extremely aggressive. So in order to launch something that big of a scale for policy, billing, claims, portal, enterprise data warehouse with full rating engine for a commercial auto product, it's extremely hard to launch that piece in about 6 to 9 months. So one of the key challenges we had was, how do you align the business stakeholders of what they are looking for and make sure we can execute on their vision in a very short period of time. So when you're launching something in about 6 to 9 months, the product has to be ready in about 4th and 5th month, so the model office can start testing it, providing iterations on improving the quality. So we had to go through that piece. And then also for hosting it to the AWS, this was our first big hosting on AWS in the enterprise. So we had to work with our data center team to make sure how that whole interaction with the AF Group data center and AWS data center and how those pieces will come together, especially with the security and so forth. And the third piece, I would say, we had about 25 integration points, and there were a lot of vendors who were supporting those integration points. So we had to make sure that integration points are also connected in the AWS the right way, and the performance on those are also in that regard. Anything I missed?
So I'll give it from a little different perspective, from a business perspective. You know, we started, again, we didn't have an operational team. So the sooner you can bring the owners in, the better off you're going to be. Also, one of the philosophies that we have as a company is try to do, implement it, the Guidewire solution out of the box as much as possible. So we were very rigid with that. We could not have done it otherwise if we were allowing people the flexibility to customize it. So again, that gets back to our philosophy. It's going to be easy to upgrade, easy to scale, and add other lines of insurance because we approach it that way. But with the 6 to 9 months, you need everybody all in because you are moving extremely rapidly. Like I said, we're working through the sprints. And we have workshops after workshops, and we have people working 24/7 to get it implemented, so they have to be constantly available. So good. Thank you for the question. Do we have any other questions?
What was the database that you used?
Yeah, so there were a lot of discussion about which database to use. So Amazon has AWS has its own data store, the data product, and Guidewire was certified on SQL Server and Oracle and Fuso. So the discussion was, can we use or leverage the AWS database environment? And at that point, we decided to go with Microsoft. And the reason was, at that point, Guidewire certified Microsoft SQL Server, so we end up using that. There is a discussion internally that as the new databases get certified in Guidewire, because Guidewire and AWS have an official partnership now, and they're working very closely together to build a landing zone to a cookie cutter blueprint of how this whole architecture will work and how databases will work. So as that platform gets further progress, there is a discussion of, can we actually migrate that to the AWS databases and so forth.
Any other questions?
How involved was Guidewire with the whole implementation from working with PwC and AF Group?
So we worked with them, I'd say, pretty extensively with what they call SPTs, they're accelerators to do the rating. We have contracted services with them, so they were always available as we needed them. But we also would work with our digital transformation team, the team that was transforming our core. Because one thing we want to do, we would have approached the strategy a little bit differently if our digital transformation would have already been completed, but it wasn't, so we stood up this instance to get us to market a little bit quicker. But yeah, so I'd say all pieces were really involved. I don't know if you had anything else to add.
Yeah, I would say Guidewire, PwC, AF Group, I think it felt to me it's one cohesive team. So the interaction and collaboration worked out pretty well. So I would say more like a triangle approach of all working together. And that's the only reason we have been very successful in executing this thing in an extremely fast-paced environment. And now with AWS partnership, we are working very closely with AWS. So Guidewire, AWS, PwC, AF Group, I would say all 4 pieces came together to actually make this happen in a very short period of time.
Yeah, so you mentioned about the different modules of Guidewire, the policy admin systems and your rating systems and all those things. So all of them are hosted on cloud. And my second part of the question is, what about the data management modules? I think Guidewire supports SAP BODS. So the database being on SQL Server, how is that managed in the cloud?
Yeah, good question. So the question was, is everything, all the stack from Guidewire hosted in AWS? And the answer is yes. It's policy, billing, and claims, and so forth. For the enterprise data warehouse, AF Group also has their own enterprise data warehouse, which they use for the entire enterprise. So what we did was we had to leverage that technology. So we actually took the element of that custom EDW into the cloud, but then it gets pushed to the data lake accident fund AF Group has. So that interaction is happening already. And the reason we end up using the AF Group technology was that enterprise data warehouse exists for much broader footprint. So it made it easy for us.
The Data Hub product which comes with Guidewire was not used. Data
Yeah, so
Hub
we didn't use Data Hub for this implementation, yes.
Great questions. Any other questions? Well, if you do have more questions, PwC has a booth number 3016, far side of the room. Happy to answer any questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.